What's good? What's good? Once again, y'all already know what time it is, man. But before I get started, I will say this here, man. I need y'all to go to www.com, OG Hollywood Speaks, man, and get that Savage Drive gear, man. And for those that's been supporting the channel by purchasing the Savage Drive gear, man, I want to give a big shout out and a big salute to you, man, because everything you pour in, I give out, man. So without further ado, man, let me tell you what's going on today. Today I have in studio an individual by the name of Mr. Wimberly. He did not serve time in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. However, he was an employee at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And like I always tell you, whether you in prison or you worked at the prison, you still have a story to tell. And he's came here today to tell his time of working in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So let's tap in with it, please. What's good, Mr. E?
What's up, Hollywood? How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm chilling, man. Like I said, man, first and foremost, man, welcome to the show. And like I was telling people, man, you know, you came to the Ferguson Chronicles to tell your story and your time working in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, right?
Right. Absolutely. Got to say, you know, first off, thanks for having me on the show. You know, I've been watching for about a year now, and I got to say, you know, I'm proud of the work you're doing. The stories are just unbelievable, you know, inspiring. It's real, your motto is real life people, real life stories. You know, you don't keep anything that's fake, and it's inspirational, man.
I appreciate you, man. It's the same on your end, man, because you didn't have to do this, man, because I understand that time is money and money is time. And just to be able to come here, man, to give your story and your time working at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, man, not only will it be appreciated, but it will help other people and inspire other people, let them know, man, that everybody has a story, even the officers, right?
Right.
So at this time, man, do me a favor, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, man, and just give them a kind of, not a high overview, but a view of who you are.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Hollywood said, my last name is Wimberly. When I worked for TDC at the Estelle Unit, my nickname was Obama. That's what the inmates called me. But I'm originally from Galveston County. Went to Sam Houston State University. Graduated with my Bachelor's of Arts in Criminal Justice. During that time period, during my senior year, I worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, as I mentioned before. Was assigned to the Estelle Unit, and graduated from Sam Houston in December 2022. Now I currently live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I attend the Bible College up here. And yeah, just continuing to learn, continuing to grind, and just, you know, ready to see what the world has in store. I'm only 22 years old, but still, you know, God willing, a lot of life to live.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Wimberly. So during your time considering to work for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, right?
Right.
Did somebody bring that to your attention, or you just inquired about the job at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice?
Well, it's kind of both. So, you know, from where I'm from in Galveston County, I didn't know this at the time, but there is a unit in Texas City. It's the Carroll Young. It's a women's facility. But besides growing up, I didn't really know much about. I mean, I knew about prison, but I didn't know where they were in Texas. But when you go to Sam Houston, the university is basically on the same property as the Walls Unit. And for those who don't know, the Walls Unit was the first ever prison in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. It's still in use today. So where I would have my criminal justice classes was in the Beto Criminal Justice Building. Again, more TDCJ history. George Beto, there's a unit named after him. He was a former director, and that building was built by inmates. So you're kind of surrounded, you know, living in Huntsville by Byrd, Wynn, Holiday, Walls. So I kind of saw it, but I was like, I don't know. But I was part of a fraternity, and still am. I was part of Theta Chi fraternity, and one of my fraternity brothers, he works for TDCJ, and you know, he was kind of telling me about it, how it helped him, you know, support his way through school. And for me, you know, wanting to pursue criminal justice, I was like, this is a TDC would be a great way for me to get experience. And so kind of that, my fraternity brother and just being in that city, that's how I found out about TDCJ and the opportunity to work there.
So during your time at the college, did you ever get a chance to see any officers as far as in the gray uniform at any particular time while you were there? And if so, did you interact with any of those officers other than your fraternity brother?
Yeah, I mean, you'd see him because even though, so at Sam Houston, the Beto Criminal Justice Center, the top floor, I guess the second floor, what do you call it, that's owned by Sam Houston. That bottom floor is owned by TDCJ. So you got officers, you got rank, you have academy classes that are happening there. So they're continuously moving throughout the building. And a lot of the times when you'd be walking to classes, they'd have like TDCJ would put up little tables saying that they were recruiting. So, I mean, I kind of see them, just going to the store, like going to like HEB, grocery stores, you'd see COs, but I never interacted with them up until I really started talking with my fraternity brother. He kind of just gave me the spiel about what it's like working there. But I mean, besides that, I think many students, we kind of just acknowledge that it's there, but we're not really too worried about it. We're more just focused on classes and other things.
So now, when did you finally make the decision to fill out an application to be employed by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice?
Yeah, it was summer 2021. I was working for my college. I was part of my fraternity. I was an orientation leader, but I just knew that time was coming up towards graduation, so I started the process. I remember I got hired officially sometime in August. Got the call, and I officially got the letter saying that I'd be assigned to the Ellis unit. So I applied around summer 2021. Filled out the application. They hired me like that. I mean, it was quick. And signed to an Ellis.
If you can remember, doing your OJT training, right?
Right.
What are some of the things that you were taught?
If I'm being honest with you, in OJT, a whole lot of nothing. And the reason why I say that is because, I guess what it really comes down to is in the academy, and it comes down to the agency as a whole. So TDCJ, they advertise it, but they are so short-staffed. I mean, they are so low on correctional officers that now the agency is at a point where now if you apply, they just try to rush you through the academy. They teach you, like, there's a physical agility test, which all you have to do is just complete it. There's no time limit on it. So it's very much just trying to put living bodies in there. If you can breathe, you can be a CO. That's just what it is, unfortunately. And so, in the academy, they kind of taught us what they had to, just the policy on certain stuff. And then during OJT, I would hear different things from different other COs, and then I'd have some who don't even care. They wouldn't even acknowledge, that I was with them for their shifts. Within TDCJ, and it's not to talk bad about them, but there are a lot of there's a lot of Africans who work for TDCJ, and I've met a lot of them that have been great coworkers. But I ran into some, just like American COs, that they're just there to get a paycheck. They're not there to teach you anything. They're just there, get their paycheck, and get out. So when it came to learning during OJT, I had to learn through hard experience, through mistakes, and other things like that. And from inmates, honestly, who give me the game. That's how I learned.
So let's talk about your first day.
Okay.
How was it for you?
Boring. It was boring because they put me in, first day OJT. I get there at, I'm told you need to be there at 6 a.m. So I'm like, cool, I'm there, sitting in that front lobby, right by Shakedown. And they're like, my OJT instructor, whatever I want to call her, is going to be there at 6. Well, I'm waiting. She ain't there. So I'm like, I'm scared that I'm in the wrong place. I did something wrong. I'm waiting. She finally shows up an hour late, which she can do. That's just her. And she's like, all right, you're going to go to Safe P. Now, for those who don't know, the Estelle, and I know I mentioned earlier that I originally got assigned to Ellis, but I put in a transfer to Estelle because my fraternity brother worked at Estelle. Anyways, for those that don't know, the Safe P program is a substance abuse felony program. So those are for people who have substance abuse problems. They can get put in this program as opposed to being a regular inmate. and it's something that they can. It's a weird setup, but I went in there and I just sat there with some dude. He just kind of told me what safe P was, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it was just boring. I was hungry because I didn't get no break, and that's really what my first day was. So nothing too crazy on my first day.
So once you complete the OJT, right?
Yep.
Where were you assigned to, and what shift that you that you was given?
I was assigned to. So I got what I wanted, which was pretty rare because at the time, I believe second shift was the shortest shift. I mean, they had like nobody, so most of the time people just got in there. But I mean, I got what I wanted. I got main building. So at Estelle, you have So Estelle's a medical facility. So you have RMF, which is the hospital, main building, high security, which is your segregation, and safe P. I got main building first shift. I got exactly what I wanted. So I was really happy about that. So for those who aren't aware, who aren't COs or just familiar with it, units either run on a 12-hour shift or an 8-hour shift. So 6 to 6, or for me, since I was first shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And during your time as far as the safe P, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you saw the inmates indulge in on safe P?
It's weird because inmates. So for those that don't know, and Hollywood probably knows this, as well. But if an inmate gets a case, he goes to court, and the laws, it'll be a captain or lieutenant. They're going to run minor court and major court. In safe P, the inmates run the court. Inmates will snitch on other inmates. Let's say they'll literally write like a note and give it to the CO saying, "Hey, I saw him doing this." Like they hold each other accountable over there, and it's really it's just weird. Like I think one of the weirdest things is that they mined a lot over there, and when I was a CO, I didn't want to have this like authoritarian figure, like these inmates need to obey me every single thing I say, but you'll start walking to like one of the dorms, and they'll yell out, "Make way for TDCJ staff." And I'm looking around like, what is this? Like, it's just, it felt fake. Like, I was like, man, I'm getting punked right now or something. But that's just how safe P is. But I will say this. Some of the craziest instances I've ever heard and seen were safe P inmates. I mean, it's really hit or miss.
Now, I know, like you say, you've seen a lot of things over there as far as some safe P inmates, right?
Right.
Now, what I want to talk about the regular population inmates, right?
Right.
How did they act over there?
It depends. So, when I think about, regular population, how the building split up, South side would be your more sexual acts, like criminal acts. North side of the building was your more violent crimes. I remember, so how Estelle set up, K block is medium custody. That's your G4s. The rest of the building is G2s and G3s. I'd say the block with the best behaved inmates was Charlie 2. Hotel and Juliet wings, man, those were some rowdy wings. I mean, because a lot of those guys who were on H and J wings, they just got their G2. They were on K block for a while, and they ship them to H and J. So those are basically, we call them Kilo 3, Kilo 4. That's just what it was. So I mean, I'd run into all different types of inmates. I run into some that were really, really nice, and I was like, man, they're nice. I was like, wonder what they got locked up for. I look it up, and it's child molester, which is weird because I don't know how it was back then, but I noticed as a CO, some of the nicest inmates, like child molester, is weird. So you'd run into some nice dudes, you run into some dudes who were funny, you'd run into some dudes who were just, not about it. They, give you attitude. And if you wanted to do like a pat search in the middle of the hallway, they try to fight it as much as they can. So it varied, it's about 2,000 people. You can get all different types of personalities.
And in your personal opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the worst type of inmate to deal with?
I'd say younger inmates that just were trying to establish a reputation because they didn't care. I mean, for them, you know, I think some of them knew, like, I mean, at worst, they're just going to go across the street to high security. They knew that, you know, a case isn't going to do anything to them, especially if they had to do 15 years, 20 years. Like, it didn't matter for them. It was all about trying to, you know, establish their authority over other COs and trying to get away with it. That's just what it was, because now it's so lax. They don't care about cases. I don't think any inmates have ever even really cared about cases. But now I just noticed that a lot of these younger inmates who are around my age, you know, they're not going to listen to me because they look at me. They're like, I'm going to listen to you. You know, I'm older than you.
So now I want to ask this: if you have any knowledge of it, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. Safe Prison Act.
Yeah.
During your time there, it had already been established and implemented, right?
Right.
Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely. Safe Prisons Act. It's completely changed how TDC was ran. So, you know, I learned from listening to your stories, from listening to inmate stories when I was at Estelle. Back then, you know, inmates handled other inmates. You know, there's a saying that it's either it was the kill or be killed era. You know, there was a lot of things that were going on that, like, officers would allow. It was just how the penitentiary was ran. Once Safe Prisons Act came in, man, if an inmate says that his life is in danger, all he's got to do is fill out that I-60 and he'll go to solitary wing, and they'll ship him off the unit. That's all it is now. You know, I think a lot of people have this idea that, like, child molesters and child rapists, like, they get got in prison. And, you know, I'm sure it still happens, but not as much as it did back then. Because now these guys, I mean, I'd see, you know, inmates who I looked them up, and, you know, they got child molesters, but they're, like, happily on the wing. They got friends, they got homeboys, and they're chilling. That's just what it is. And so now, I mean, this Safe Prisons is, you know, has really changed the culture of TDCJ. So I am familiar with it. But however, you know, during my last few months, we had instances of prison rape. I mean, it's, you know, they would tell us in turnout, like, hey, we had a guy on Echo 2, you know, he got raped last night. And, you know, they would tell us, like, they give us the step-by-step process, what we had to do if an inmate told us he got raped. And I mean, it's sick, but it's in there.
Now let's talk about this. And we're gonna stay in that safe prison era for a few minutes, even though it's still there and you were there, right?
Right.
Because I like to expand on that, because a lot of people really want to know about the Safe Prison Act, right?
Right.
So, and we're gonna go back to the child molester part, right?
Right.
Because it's different hearing it from you as a CO versus hearing it from me as an ex-offender, right?
Right.
Child molesters in prison run free with no worries, right?
Right.
The same as other inmates. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And there's no punishment for those people, right?
From the CO side, obviously not. You know, we're taught treat firm, fair, consistent. You know, like, it's not something where, like, if, like, I'm passing out trays and I know this dude's a child molester, I can't just skip his tray. I can't do that. You know, you got to give him the tray. You got to be firm, fair, consistent on that. And with now, like I said, from what I saw, at least the culture at Estelle, those dudes are just running free, man. SSIs, working in the craft shops. I mean, dude, like, I have a wallet, and I got my jewelry box over there. Inmate at the Walls unit, he's got a craft shop, child molester. You know what I'm saying? Guy who made I bought so for those that don't know, inmates with certain good behavior, and if they have the money to start it up, they can have a craft shop. You can buy, like, things with leather, wood, metal, and they'll make it for you. Very talented. But I looked them up, and child molesters. You know what I'm saying? And, like, these dudes are able to make money, you know, support themselves, and it's Safe Prisons has changed a lot of things. It's not the kind of hard time that it used to be and that people think it is really now, especially with the tablets.
During your time working at that unit, right? Because I know it's a lot of contraband in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and guys of your age are normally approached by offenders that has been locked up for a substantial amount of time, right?
Right.
And they would try to convince you to bring contraband in. Did that ever happen to you?
Oh yeah. First day. No, second day. When I actually hit the cell blocks on Delta One, man, it was quick. It was like, hey, like, you know, like cell phone, drugs. I mean, I got offered this one dude, he wanted tobacco. I mean, I got offered thousands of dollars, you know, and I told them, I was like, you know, especially whenever they say, because they always say with the cell phones, they're like, oh, you know, I'm trying to support my family. And I'm like, look, as much as I understand that, you know what I'm saying? I know that life outside doesn't just stop. It keeps going. I can't risk my future just to help you out. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't ruin everything that I'm trying to work for just to help you out. And so, yeah, I mean, it's every inmate, you know, and I'll say it like this, Hollywood, when you first hit Ferguson, when you first walked into your cell block, everyone in that day room was looking at you, kind of getting a read at you. You know what I'm saying? Trying to figure you out. Same thing for COs. When inmates see a new CO coming in, they're trying to figure it out, whether it's a guy or a girl. Okay, is he going to be RoboCop? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be lenient? How's it going to be? And so they test you with that. And one of the ways they may test you may not even be just a phone. They may just leave like one of these on their cell phone and be like, hey, you want a soda? You want a snack like that? And some dudes who may not understand or maybe naive, they'll take it. Yeah. And it starts like that. And that's how they test you. Like, okay, he'll take a soda. He'll take some Laffy Taffy. He'll take a taco. What else he'll take? Maybe he could bring me in something.
So at that particular time when you are approached by an inmate, right? Mm-hmm. Would you warn them that with the case as far as that's an inappropriate relationship, trying to establish a relationship to get an officer to bring some in, right? Or would you automatically write them up?
Oh, I would never write them up. You know, obviously that was my job. I could have done that. I just tell them like, nah, man, I'm not gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? And usually after I told them like the second time, they'd be cool with it. They wouldn't ask no more. But it was one thing like, I mean, yeah, technically I could have. There's so many. They gave us that little handbook. There's so many cases that you can write that are just stupid. You know, making too much noise, horseplay. You can write something for that. But for me, in a sense, I was like, nah, man, like I'm just not gonna do that, and it never went any further past that.
So, during your time, did you ever see any officers escorted off the unit?
Oh yeah. So right about a month before I quit, you know, I was working, and we heard on the radios we got a new warden. So we had a warden. We had Warden Lamb for a while, half a year. Then we got Warden Britt. Warden Britt gets on the radio. He says, you know, he called. He said, "Hey, I got an officer who's been compromised. I need her escorted off the unit." It was an African female CO. She got caught with an inmate in the closet. And, you know, this is a funny story, but there was a nurse. She got walked off. But what's funny about that is I knew that nurse because on my birthday, I had to work in RMF, which is the hospital, when I was in OJT. And, man, Hollywood, I was spitting game the whole time. I was spitting game at her, you know, just trying to get the thing. And when I was leaving, one of them was like, "Wimberly, you get her number?" And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna come back for it. And then even one of my other coworkers who was on OGT was like, "Wimberly, you get her number?" I'm like, nah, I'm gonna come back for it. Well, a few months later, I don't see her no more. I'm like, where'd she go? She must have quit. So I'm getting my hair cut in the officer's barbershop. And the barber's like, "Yeah, this nurse got walked off. You know, she was like this little fine thing. She was Hispanic." I was like, "Did she have like blonde streaks in her?" He's like, "Yeah, she was gone for like 30 minutes. Dang, bro, that one dude was putting that work in. You know what I'm saying? I just was like, man, but it's just, you know what I'm saying? It happens. I mean, you know, you can look up Texas Department of Criminal Justice on Facebook. About half their posts are just like these COs getting caught up, man. They get caught up because the one thing they told us in the academy is, with me, with my integrity, I was never gonna bring anything in. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how much money it was. It's not worth my future. Thing what people don't understand is, let's say you're in 304 cell, right? Doing 303 cell, I'm bringing him a cell phone. Once you figure out that I'm bringing him a cell phone, now you want a cell phone. And then the guy in 305 wants a cell phone. And then the whole row wants cell phones. And then once I stop, I'm out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And you know, inmates will try to give you the game, like, "Oh, I promise you, like, this is how we're going to do it." And I'm just like, nah, man, like, I don't care if it's foolproof. I'm not doing it. But some dudes, some people, like you said, who are doing this job and who are stuck and struggling for money, especially during Christmas time, they want to get the presents for those kids. They see it as like, hey, it's just some quick cash, and they get caught up.
Let's stay with the female COs, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to stay with them is this. I recently did an interview on Real Life Street Stars, right?
Right.
And I was explaining to him that female officers, when they come into a unit, right, and it's 2,700 inmates in the unit, right, and guys that have been incarcerated for a long time look different from guys in the free world, right?
Absolutely.
They are somewhat more appealing to a female, right?
Right.
Why? Because most of the guys that in society now either on drugs, their bodies are worn down, and you come into an institution where it seems like everything is fresh, right?
Right.
From your personal opinion, man, if you can speak on that, because for whatever reason it is, they think that every female that works in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice is bottom of the barrel females. What's your take on that?
Well, I can say it like this, and they told all the females in my class in the academy, if you're not attending the free world, you're attending there. And so my personal opinion is this, there was a girl in my class, she actually graduated from our class and went to Ferguson. And Hollywood, I'm not gonna lie to you, she was maybe like a 2 out of 10. Like she was a crazy, she was a redhead, she was just not attractive at all. We found out a month later she gets walked off. Not even 1 month. You know what I'm saying? And she's out of there. And so my personal opinion is this. I think it's completely false to say that every single female there is bottom of the barrel. I have some beautiful coworkers. I've seen some beautiful women work at TDC. It's also false to say that everyone working there is a freak, and is just trying to get with someone. But I will say there are some women in there that go in there looking for a husband. There are some that, my personal opinion too is if they're maybe not the most attractive girl in the free world, when they go in there, they're 10. And so you got guys who are spitting in game and they're talking to them a certain type of way that they never heard before. You know what I'm saying? And these guys are saying, I'm about to get out. I can provide for you. You're and just like flirting with them. They probably never felt that type of way. And so I think that's why for some of them, they can get caught up and they can experience that. But that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, it happens. They told us in the academy, when we were in the academy at the wing unit, this one girl, she got caught on 2-row, bent over on 2-row on camera.
So for the viewers, right?
Yeah.
I want to repeat that again so they can know that, that do go on.
Yeah, I mean, like they told us straight up, like I said, this girl was on camera on 2-row. There's like hundreds of cameras in any unit on any cell block. It'll catch mostly anything. I mean, of course, there are some blind spots, but this girl on 2-row, doors were rolled, was getting at it with this dude. And this is the thing. When they confronted her, she denied it. They're like, we got it on camera. And she was like, okay, well, it was consensual. They go to the inmate cell and they talk to him. They're like, hey, we caught you. And he's like, no, it didn't happen. And they're like, it's on camera. We got the evidence on your shorts. And he's like, oh, she forced me to do it. It was rape. So at that moment, because of PREA and because the laws in Texas, you cannot have sex with anybody that's incarcerated. Under state custody, you cannot. She went to jail for rape. He got off nothing. Because even though it was consensual and they were both about it, all you had to do was claim rape. You know what I'm saying? And so that just shows too that some people, once they use you for your purpose and you don't got that purpose no more, you're out of there.
So now, let me ask you this. We both know that at some time and point as a CO, you're gonna have major use of force on the job, right? Because all inmates are not the same, and some inmates are gonna act up and some are not, right?
Right.
What was it like for you to have a major use of force on an inmate?
It's It's an adrenaline rush, I can say that. So my first use of force came my second week at Estelle. I was put on I was on Alpha Wing with this older CO, great dude, super funny. And we were on Alpha Wing, which is the lockup inside a prison. So believe it or not, it's kind of like jail inside a prison. That's what I call it. So anytime an inmate catches a case or he has to go to like, single cell, you get put on A Wing. And I'll never forget, it was about 11:30. I was about to go take my lunch. And all of a sudden I hear all this yelling in the sally port. And the sergeant brings in this inmate, has got him in hand restraints, and they're just yelling. And then sergeant puts the inmate in this little individual shower cell. Hollywood, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just for one person. It's not like a big shower. It's just one person. Puts him in there. Dude's kicking on the door. He's yelling. The reason he's yelling is for two reasons. One, his wife and his father recently died, supposedly. And then two, he got G4'd. So for those that don't know, custody levels in general population are G1 through G5. Higher you go, more restrictions, more things you lose. So he was the only one on his block that got G4'd. And no one told him why, apparently, that he got G4'd. So, I'm watching this guy because I'm like, well, I got to see this now because it's just took my attention. He's in the shower cell. He's just pacing around. He's kicking the door. Sergeant told me, if he kicks that door again, you gas him. And obviously I say, yes, sir. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's lame. I'm not going to do that. He's just kicking the door. So he's kicking the door. He's walking around, and I'm watching him. And then I see him. He takes off his shirt and his undershirt, and he goes in this little blind spot on the side where I can't see him. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's not right. Like, he's about to do something. I didn't know what, but I knew he was about to do something. So I stand up. I start slowly walking towards the door, and then he had popped out in Hollywood. I'll never forget this dude's eyes. It was a crazy white boy. He pulls out like this, like looking like that, eyes wide open, tied a noose around his neck. He was trying to wrap it around the bars to hang himself. And the little thing about me, I grew up sheltered. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like before then, I had never been in a fight. Like I'd never seen anything like that. And I see this immediately. First thing in my mind, well, my sergeant told me in the academy, whenever we can use chemical agents on an inmate, if they're trying to hurt themselves, to fight, destruction of state property. Those are 3 times we can use gas. So I pull out my gas and I say, hey, like all the lines or something like that. And then at the moment, the officer behind me, he was some African. He said, gasin, in his little accent. And so the next few moments are kind of hazy, but I remember I put my hand up because someone told me for some reason that helps. It didn't help at all. But I say, OC, spray him. This point is kind of blurry. I think I'm told that I walked forward into the gas for some reason. That stuff gets on me. I'm freaking out because, I'm sure man, that OC is that'll make you lay it down. And so I run back a little bit, and then I look and I see the other officers just gassing him. So then I run up, I just close my eyes and I just spray. I don't even know if I'm hitting him. I don't know what I'm spraying. And I turn around, I told the other officer, I'm like, call the flash. For those that don't know, that's ICS. Anytime we have a situation where we need additional staff. So they call the flash. Thing about Alpha Wing and Estelle, it's right next to the major's office. So they come in with a gas mask. Lieutenants come in. If I remember right, they take him to the infirmary, and they put him back in the shower cell. And see, the thing about it is this. Some people don't realize this, or they may think it doesn't happen, but there's a lot of some evil stuff that goes on in there. And so when this inmate gets put back in the shower cell, he's trying to turn on the water to like wash his gas off his face. They turn the water off. They want to let him burn. You know what I mean? It's not gonna like scar him or anything, but it's gonna put him in more pain than what he is. And like, I think like, I saw that, but like me, I mean, I was like they're really doing this to him? Like, why are they not gonna let him wash it off? I mean, it probably would have made it worse because water travels and you don't want that gas down there. But I mean, that's just what they did. And about, I had to write him a case for creating a disturbance because it was about to be like count time, and then refusal to obey a direct order. And then about 10, 15 minutes later on Alpha 2, same block, they said we need additional staff on 2 row. And, I run down to cell 215, and there was an older inmate, his name was Easley. He was trying to hang himself. So then lieutenant, sergeant are gassing him. They give me another can. I was just looking there. I spray. I empty the can, and then they give me the camera, and they said, start videoing. But I didn't have. The thing is, I didn't have a gas mask, and like for people who don't know, gas is so debilitating. You can't breathe. You're coughing. It just burns your eyes. It burns everything. I didn't even know how to operate the camera, so I just gave it to some dude who had a gas mask on and just got out of there. But that was my first major use of force for 2 of them.
Have you ever been in an altercation where it was major use of force and the majority of officers were Caucasian versus a black?
Yes. I can tell you. So that was actually my third one. This was on K Block. We had a situation where it was weird because I was working Kilo 2, and for those that work for the state, sometimes you'll get a random drug test where they'll take you downtown Huntsville. You got to pee in a cup, and then you go back to the unit. So it was nice. It was like a little field trip. I got to skip a count, 7:30 count. But anyways, I'd get back on the block, and I'd go up to 3-row. Hit squad comes. So, SSI's learning everybody saying, hey, hit squad's on the way. Hit squad comes up to 3-row, so I come up there. They roll the doors, and there was 2 dudes who were trying to get back in their cell, and one of the officers from the hit squad's like, also for those who don't know, sorry, hit squad is like they search for contraband. They're trying to strip search him. This one dude has his shirt, and he tries to walk by one of the COs, and the CO's like, give me your shirt, and inmate's not saying anything, and he's like, give me your shirt, and then he bumps into him and tries to move past him, and it was like slow motion, but I knew it was going to happen. CO picks him up, slams him. So then I'm just seeing this, and I'm like, okay, flash, flash, flash. We got a use of force on Kilo 2, and it was me. I was black, and then it was 1, 2, 3 other white COs, and we're just in there. They're punching him, elbowing him. Thing is he's on his stomach. I'm just trying to pull his arm behind his back at this point. You know what I'm saying? I was like, that's my job. Our job is to put him in handcuffs, but they're elbowing him, punching him. The only time where I actually punched him was, I remember it too, and I saw it. He tried to bite my hand. So what I did was I didn't punch him in the face. I punched him 3 times in the back right shoulder just to try to loosen his arm. And at that point, I remember we put him in cuffs. But at that point too, one of the officers that was in that use of force, right before we had that, I think it was the day before, he was talking about how he got into a use of force last week, and how he was trying to break some dude's arm. So, that just shows like, it was a black dude. And so it shows that there's some dudes out there that are trying to hurt some people. They're not there to use. Our job is to use the minimum force required to gain compliance. That's anything besides that's excessive. But in there, sometimes some dudes, they just take it too far. They like doing that. I guess it gives them like a power trip or something. But this was just some things I noticed.
During your time there as a African American CO, right?
Right.
Did you ever experience any racism from white counterparts?
No, I can say that no. I wouldn't even say I guess in a sense, I'm very blessed that I didn't experience that. I think nowadays a lot of rank, especially one of my lieutenants, he was African. We had a few sergeants that were black. So I think now it's a little bit more diverse than what it used to be. I'm sure back in the 90s, that definitely may have been the case, 90s and 80s, even in the past, but it was pretty diverse. Only grief I would catch, and it's not even racism, it would just be some grief. I would just catch it from black inmates. And the only reason why I catch it is because a lot of them were ignorant, and they make fun of the way I talk. Because for them, I guess they'd say I talk white. But for me, speaking proper, taking pride in myself, why is that a white trait? You know what I'm saying? That's just a human decency trait. And so, I was blessed I didn't have to experience any of that.
Let's talk about the African COs in there, right?
Right.
What was the difference between the black officers and the African officers?
Biggest difference I can think of is the fact that there were way more Africans than just black officers. And I say that because a lot of these Africans, TDC actually advertises in Africa. For those that don't know, they actually advertise because for them, you know, in their country with their economy, you know, they may not be able to make so much money, but, you know, they can come over to Texas and they're going to get a job that's going to pay them well. A lot of them live on the unit in the BOQ housing. They get retirement and, you know, they just send money back home. So it's like, I say about like 50% of the staff at Estelle and most units are African. You know, there weren't that many black COs that I remember. The ones that I do remember, there were some really, really cool ones. There were a lot of older guys, you know, give me a lot of knowledge anytime I wanted, but mainly African COs outnumber them today. That's just how it is.
Now, I'm gonna ask you this, and this is just your personal opinion. You got Black Americans in America, right?
Right.
And you got the COs that come from Africa, right?
Right.
Why do you think the state bring foreigners to work for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice versus bringing the blacks that are already here to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to work?
I think I think the biggest reason, there's two reasons. One, TDC just needs anybody at this point. I mean, the situation is so bad. I can put it to y'all like this. So at the Estelle unit on first shift, there's 60 priority one positions. That means that 60 spots that a person needs to be. On first shift, there's 3 cards, you know, like where, you know, not everyone works every day. You know, you may come in on your Monday and it's someone's like Saturday. On first shift in total, by the time when I was working there, we had about 30 officers. So even for some weird reason, all of first shift worked one day, we'd still be short staffed. So at this point, you know, they're just trying to pull anybody and everybody. If you have a pulse, you can work. And to answer the other part of your question, why there's not many black COs, people just don't want to do this job. I mean, you know, they just announced a pay raise, which is great. TDC just did, but it's not a sustainable living wage. The environment that you're working in is dangerous. I mean, it's not for the weak at heart, but you know, if you're risking your life, you know, your life every day, and you're not getting, you know, paid for it as you should be, you know, people can go work at Buc-ee's or work for HEB in air conditioning and make the same, if not more, than what a CO's making. And you're out there, you're sweating, it's hot. I mean, you know, it's just what it is. It's stressful. You know, you got to deal with, you know, some officers who are incompetent because, like I said, they're just trying to pass anybody in there, and it's dangerous. And so that's why I think that, you know, for the people from Africa, I can't speak for all of them, but for the some that I talked to, I mean, this is as best it's going to get for them because, you know, they're getting offered. It's compared to where they are and what they have back at home. This is unbelievable. TDC, it's like a dream.
Now let's touch on disrespect as far as from a CO perspective, right?
Right.
At any time and point that when you were there, how did the inmates treat you?
They treated me good. You know, like I said, I mean, my nickname, like, that's where I learned to talk to people. And that was one of my favorite parts about working the job. Like I said before, my nickname was Obama. One dude called me John Legend. One inmate, he told me that his name was an OG. My name was a YG. So, you know, I could just be walking down the hallway and I see him. I say, "Look out, OG." He'd be like, "What's up, YG?" You know what I'm saying? So I was liked, but, you know, I mean, I had my inmates that I run into that give me problems. You know, I remember there was this one time, there was this younger inmate. I was working Delta 1, which is a transient wing, and I'm trying to do my showers. And Delta 1 is basically like a seg wing, so a lot of different things going on in that wing. There's supposed to be 2 bosses, but every single time you're by yourself. So he comes in. I didn't notice his chain boss just drops him off. I had no clue what's going on, and he wants to go in the day room. Thing was he was a G4. I already had 2 G5s in the day room, and you can't mix custodies. So I tell him, "You need to go to the house." And he's like fighting me on it. So then I got to call for additional staff. Not ICS, but I'm like, "Hey, this dude's not going home." And so, you know, it's about 1:30. I'm about to get off. It's hot. I'm tired. I basically done my showers. And he was on that dude was staying on 3-row. So I do a security check real quick. I walk by his cell and he like bangs on the door. He's like, "Man, where's my shower at?" He's all mad. And my thing was this: I would have given him the shower if he would have, you know, respected me and listened to me the first time. But I told him, I was like, no, you refused, man. I was like, when you acted a fool down there, you refused. And he just starts, cussing me out and saying all this. And see, if this would have been when I first started, I would have just, given it back to him as much as I can and just give that, because I felt like I had to protect my ego. Man, Hollywood, I gave him a piece of game that I learned. All that's because he just came from A-Wing, lockup. I told him, I said, hey, I appreciate that information you gave me the other day. And I said it real loud too. And man, he flipped out. Thing is, he didn't give me no information. But the other inmates, they don't know that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And man, he freaked out. He was just going crazy. And so then I go downstairs, I'm trying to write the case. Field minister comes on the wing, goes up there, talks to him, and he's like, field minister telling me, like, hey, he's saying he's going to burn his mattress. And I was like, man, come on now. So I walk up there and I talk to him, and he's like, why would you say that about me? I don't even know you like that. I was like, because look, you're going to learn not to disrespect me. I'm not writing you a case, even though I should, but you're going to learn from this moment. You're not going to mess with me. And that day forward, never did nothing, It's the biggest thing that people don't realize unless you're in there. It's about respect. Both sides, inmates and COs. It's all about respect in there. There's certain things that, maybe I should have wrote some people up for, but I allowed because I tell them. Let's say I caught some dudes tattooing on one row. Technically, I'm supposed to, take their stuff, write them up. That's contraband, And if they refuse to give it to me, then we go from there. But I tell them, look, I'll let you tattoo. Don't disrespect me and do it out in the open. Put a sheet up. But hey, if it's count time and I catch you on my run and I tell you to go to the day room and you don't listen, you're out of there. And I was like, I feel like that's a fair deal. So, I didn't write a lot of cases, but if I did, it had to be for a real reason,
So, did you ever get emotional while you was at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice? And if so, what was the reason?
Yeah. So I'll never forget one thing too that I guess I kind of had a rude awakening coming was when I was in the academy. When you're at academy, I mean it's Cadillac. You know what I'm saying? You really can't do anything, but no one can really do anything to you. And same thing when you're on OJT. You're watching this other officer run the block. You're just like following along. You feel like you're on top of the world. And I remember, when I got off OJT, I'm excited. I'm like, man, I'm about to run this unit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to make me warden. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got all
Yeah.
And so, I hit my first day off OJT. I worked Kilo 1, G4 wing. And it's tough, but I'm like, okay. Like, this is a little different, being on my own. It's actually my wing. Second day, they put me on Delta 1, which is basically like a seg wing. You got G2s through G5s in there. And just working that day, I'm trying to do my showers. I'm trying to run day room. Because this is what people don't realize. At Estelle, and I believe it's changed, but when I was working there, you had about 70 inmates on that block. My job as a boss on Delta 1 was to do 3 and 2 row showers, 3 and 2 row day room, escort, count, and feed by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that would have been a little bit more manageable if I had a picket boss on Delta side. Thing is, since we were short staffed, that picket boss had a role on Echo side. He couldn't just focus on Delta 1 where I had to do my showers. So doors would break, it's hot, I'm thirsty, I don't get time to eat nothing. I got inmates who are jacking the day room who are not coming out. They're cussing me out. I got the inmates who I told I'd put them in the day room on 3 and 2 row. They're cussing me out. And, I'm just like feeling all this type of stress. And I remember, I got my relief really late. I was supposed to get off at 2. Relief didn't come till 3:30. And so, I'm just walking back and I'm just like dejected. And then, I'm walking towards the shift office to put up my vest. And I pass by the central desk and my lieutenant, he looks at me, he's like, Wimberly, you all right? And I just go up to him and I'm like, no. And I just start talking and then just the tears come and I'm crying. I'm like, oh my God, like what am I doing? And I just couldn't help it. And so then immediately lieutenant takes me in the shift office, which I'm glad he did. I'm glad none of the inmates saw me crying because I never lived that down. But I just cried at him and I'm just like, lieutenant, like I'm telling him everything that went wrong, everything that's going on. And it was one of the biggest life lessons that I've ever experienced in there because, I'm crying and I'm telling him. And then, he told me something that it stuck with me every day that I walked in there. He's like, like, I understand, like, this is a stressful job, but this is the penitentiary. Like, this is what it is. And I realized when what he said, he didn't say it, but I knew what he meant when he said that. He's like, if you're going to cry like this, you're not going to make it. You might as well just quit now. And I was like, okay. But what I learned in that moment is that no matter how hard a day, no matter how stressful, no matter what, I made it through. And from that point on, I never cried again. I never cried again at that job. And it's a job like no other. You're around some of the most dangerous people, on earth. And it's stressful, it's hot, but it's a job that's got to get done. And I learned in that moment, if I'm gonna do my job, if I'm gonna do my part, I gotta adapt. I gotta learn how to handle my, my emotions, and I did. And I'm so thankful for that moment, even though it was kind of embarrassing. I have no shame about talking about it because it helped me grow.
So, when did you decide to exit the Texas Department of Criminal Justice?
Well, I knew that TDCJ was never going to be, I knew it was always going to be a stepping stone. Much as I love the job, as much as I miss it every day and I'd love to go back, I never would, because I know I can. I just want to go forward, Even though I joke around with my mom saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go back," I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep going forward. I knew, like I said, it was never going to be something permanent. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to work till I graduate. And I did. I graduated December 9th, 2022. My last day was December 22nd, 2022. And like I said, I miss it. I think I just miss the rapport I have with inmates, because that's something that's real. I'm sure it's something you have with COs, you know what I'm saying? You walk down the hallway and you'd be like, and you just hear your name, like, what's up, Obama? What's up, Wimberly? It's just, you'd have your coworkers, and you'd have some good days. There were some good days. There were some fun times. It's just real. It's real people in there. And so, I knew it was never going to be something permanent. And about halfway through my senior year, that's when I decided to apply to my Bible college, which I'm at currently today. So I knew, once I finish here at TDC, I'll go up to Missouri, and that's why I'm here now.
If you had to say one thing other than that particular moment where you got somewhat emotional because the day was stressful, right?
Right.
If you had to say one particular moment in a situation from a mental standpoint that helped shape you to who you are today, what moment would it be other than that time you got emotional?
I got two, really. It's the same sort of scenario, but it happened twice, and I'm lucky that nothing ever happened to me for it. But kind of like when I was explaining to you earlier, whenever, I told that one inmate how, I got information from him or something, but I told you how I said earlier, if it was whenever I first started, I would have just been arguing with him. Well, I was coming in that prison, felt like I was, hot stuff. I felt like I could, fight anybody, never been in a fight in my life, but I felt like, I could handle it, And so I remember there was this one time I was in the picket and I was working, and this cell block was on COVID lockdown. And so I knew that the, only one row at a time could go in the day room. Well, we roll the doors on 2 row, and this African CO, she's working it. This one inmate, he comes out and he's trying to go to the day room. She's telling him no. And he starts yelling at her. And my thing is this: you can yell at me all you want. Don't yell at no female. You know what I'm saying? But I realize some of the times too, these people don't care if they're a female. They're just going to yell at a CO. So I yell from the picket, I'm just, trying to say my stuff, act tough. Well, I decided to do a double that day. I do overtime. They put me on that wing. So after 2 p.m. after shift change, count clears, I roll in and out. That dude comes up to me and he's like, "You going to talk that mess now?" And I turn around and I say, "Heck yeah, I'm going to talk that mess now." And I just start, as you can tell, like with how I am, God's worked on me. I used to have a mouth where I'd cuss a lot, and now I've grown a lot from that. But man, I was just going off on him, and I don't know if you ever seen the fight between DeAndre Hopkins and D'Angelo Hall. He said, DeAndre Hopkins said, "I fear God." I fear God, and man, that's all I could say. But I remember, like, I could see that dude's eyes. Like, we were face to face like that, and he just backed off, and we backed off. And I mean, I felt, I'm feeling good. I'm like, yeah, like, I can fight anybody. And then about 2 months later, I'm on Delta 1, which is basically a seg wing. Like I said, we got G2s through G5s on there. And I remember this guy who was on 2-row. I pull him out for a shower, and the only shower that was open was a 3-row shower. Thing is, that one hadn't been working. It worked, but past few days it wasn't working. So he's like, can I go to the 2 or 1-row shower? And I'm like, no, they're full. Like, you're going to 3-row. He's like, no, I want to go to 2-row. And I was like, look, man, I'm giving you your chance to shower. If you refuse, you refuse. And he was like, man, you won't take these cuffs off, because he was mad. And I looked at him. I said, okay, bet. So I got my key, took one cuff off, and then he got up in my face. I said, hold up. Take the other cuff off, put it up, and then I get in his face. Same thing. I repeat DeAndre Hopkins. We're going back and forth, and I'm yelling at him. And he's like, man, put me in my cell. So I put him in his cell, close the door. And like I said, the same thing, I'm feeling good. But then I think about it. I'm like, and I was telling on Monday, I got my hair cut. And I found out that my barber back home, he actually was an inmate. He spent time at Beto. And he's like, man, you could have got fired for that. And I was like, I could have got killed right there. That dude was a G5. Not saying all G5s are like that, but
yeah,
man, that dude had a life sentence. And especially with that type of wing, Alpha Wing, Delta 1, we had a strip search. Technically, anytime an inmate came out of the cell, we had a strip search them. Didn't matter if they were safe P, G1 through G5. I didn't strip search them. I just took them out the cell. I didn't know who I was dealing with, but me being lame, just thinking that I'm hot stuff and I can rule the world, took the cuffs off this dude. If he really wanted to, he could have killed me, or he could have really messed me up. And I learned that I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Like, if that situation would happen right now and he's like, take the cuffs off, I'd be like, absolutely not. I'd put him in his cell, close the doors, take the cuffs off once he's behind the doors and secure, and that's it. Or if he wanted to like try to fight and not go in his cell, call for a supervisor. But me, I wanted to try to solve the problem myself and be the hero, And so I learned I don't need to I don't need to prove nothing to anybody. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if those inmates who are watching think I'm tough or not. It don't matter. What matters to me is I needed to go home at the end of the day. So that's another big thing I learned. I'm grateful that nothing happened, looking back at it.
Fast forward now, man. Let's talk about your situation now, and what are some of the things that you're trying to accomplish in your life now, and that you've already accomplished.
Yeah. So right now, currently, I attend a Bible college up in Winsfield, Missouri. I'm pursuing another bachelor's. I want to get a bachelor's in Christian ministry, concentrating in youth ministry. My passion is youth ministry. I think that young people are so impressionable. I think that the ages of like 15 to 18, those last few years of high school, I don't know why, but in our culture, you're forced to make such a big decision. Are you going to go to college? What are you going to pick for your career for the rest of your life? Like, these big choices. And man, like at 18, I didn't know anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew I wanted to college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I feel like I've changed my career path over 10, 15 times. And so I feel like, I want to show them that, obviously that God has a plan for everybody and that God can use them for his perfect will. And so that's what I learned at this college. And that's what my passion is for the future. And what I've accomplished so far is when I was at my college at Sam Houston, I was president of my fraternity. I was an ambassador for the university. I just try to, set myself up, for the best way possible for my future. And I give all the glory to God for that. What it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to do any of that. Same thing here. I got, a good job working for the college in the admissions office. I'm on student senate, and I have another job. I work at Olive Garden. And again, I give all glory to God. So that's currently what I'm doing now. And the skills of being able to present myself and talk to people, I learned that in TDC. I learned that, to be able to talk to someone, you have to kind of get an understanding, kind of get a feeling, and understand that people are different from you. But we're all human, and you got to learn how to talk to them.
So I do have a question to ask you, man. The other day,
Yep.
You visited CEO Hockley for the first time after seeing him online, right?
Right.
What are your thoughts of him?
He was a cool dude. He was down to earth. I mean, the thing is so I found about him through your channel. That's how I saw his interview, and I was like, man, like this dude's from Galveston County. And I think, I'd run into some inmates from Galveston County. I love running into people from there because I'm like, they're from my hometown. They're know what it is. And I was seeing this dude, and I was like, man, I Googled, like I saw his store. I was like, man, like this guy, like he's making it. He did time. He made some mistakes, but he reformed himself. And TDC's mission is reintegrating inmates back into society. Well, he's doing that, and he's successful. So I was like, I got to check this guy out. So I was like, next time I drive from back home to Texas, I'm gonna go there because living in Galveston County myself, Mark is not that far. So I went down to his store, and I was like, I guess I really didn't know too much to expect, but this dude's a business owner. When I walked in, he wasn't on his phone, he wasn't just like messing around. He was on his computer working on some orders for his business, finalizing some orders, and he had some time to talk to me, but I could tell he was a busy man. And I think it's just so impressive to see someone, present, be able to make it and accomplish what they've said. Because I've ran into people, not even just in prison, but just, in the free world that say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this. But they're not about it. They don't really make it happen. But he made it happen.
So let me ask you this. So if you had a message for CEO Hockley, what would that message be from you?
Hey man, look, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I think, I could tell, obviously, there's a lot of things. You're always gonna have haters, you're gonna have supporters, and I think right now you speaking your mind, speaking your voice, just keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? From a CEO side, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to see someone, a fellow person, fellow member from Galveston County make it. Someone who can make a mistake but show that there's a pathway to success. And I don't, I see, you're trying to build your brand, and I think you just keep doing what you're doing. Any press is good press. That's what I got to say. If there's people hating on you, that means you're doing something right. That's all I got to say.
And as we get ready to get out of here, man, I have to ask you one more question, right? Your story will forever be on the Ferguson Chronicle, and people will hear it, right? And this is inspiring to a lot of people, whether you know it or not. Even at your age, as of 22, because most 22-year-olds are not in a position that you're in, right?
Right.
And I always like to tell people, is their interview, their story, and I want them to leave a stamp on it. So before we get out of here, man, most people like to hear encouraging words, especially those that have been incarcerated, whether they're young or whether they're old, because this don't always happen. COs on grade the screen, ex-felons. Why? Because they feel some type of way. They feel like the inmate hates the officer or the ex-officer, right?
Right.
But here we are today on the same screen, right?
Right.
And you heard about me even before you knew me.
Yeah.
Inside a prison when you was working there.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's ironic. Just like you told me, even though you've been free for 11 years, people are still talking about you inside of the prison.
Yep.
And my words to you was that doesn't mean anything to me, because the 25 years I did in prison was a waste of time.
Right.
Although I walked those hallways and put on a smile, I had to, because I was in character mode. Versus now, this is me now. In prison, I was in character mode. In other words, I was serving time as a loser. Even though they was praising me, in my mind, I knew I was a loser, right? Because I didn't have nothing to measure up against my life other than prison, right?
Right.
I'm winning now.
Yeah.
So with that being said, man, go ahead and leave the people with whatever you want to leave them with.
Yeah, I want to talk to I guess really the people my age and my generation. if you're tuning in and you're listening to this and you're on my age and you're thinking about pursuing a lifestyle that you know is wrong, that you're pursuing a lifestyle that that could lead you to being incarcerated, look at OG Hollywood's story. Look at Kryptonite's story. Look at all these inmate stories. There's one common theme is that they regret their time that they spent. I can tell you this as a CO side. I was a CO. I had to learn this. When it comes to inmates, you have to not care. I'm a very compassionate person, and I wanted to help people. But I had to learn that there's certain things that I would do that other COs wouldn't do. Sometimes I walk by an inmate and he'd tell me that, his toilet would be broken. I'd call down to maintenance and show him, hey, I'm calling maintenance to let you know we're gonna get this fixed. Some other COs didn't care about that. So I'm telling you, if you think that like you are living this lifestyle that's, you're gang banging, you think you're having fun, you're thugging. Once you get in there, that doesn't matter. You are gonna face some people who are gonna be bigger than you, who are gonna be stronger than you, and who are badder than you. And if you think that prison is cool just now because they have these tablets, I'm telling you right now, you think you can fight, you think you can do all this, just wait until you get in there. I want you to look up on TDCJ, go on YouTube, look up what a 5-man team is. Doesn't always happen, but a lot of the times when these inmates, and Hollywood might be able to tell you, when these inmates, want to, put it up and fight, this is how they line it up in TDC. And I'm telling you this because I've heard it. It hasn't happened at Estelle, but I know. Put a big dude in the front with a riot shield. 2 and 3 men will be about someone my size, and a 4 man will be about someone my size. 5th man, they're going to put a really, really, really big dude. For one reason, they're going to put a big dude back there. They're going to do it to block the camera because they're going to beat you, and they'll do it. They've done it in the past, and they'll continue to do it. This life, what Kryptonite's saying, what OG Hollywood's saying, what I'm saying, is not a life you want to pursue. And I encourage, all former inmates and COs to come on this platform and to let these young people know, people my age know, that this is not a life you want to pursue. It's time that you can never get back. But like the past hour that Hollywood and I spent talking on this platform, we can never get back. It's done. It's gone. I run into inmates my age, 19, 20 years old. They got to do 60 years. By the time they get out, they're going to be old. You know what I'm saying? Their whole life is gone. I saw someone who I went to high school with. He got sentenced life without parole. His life's gone. And so what I mean is, I want this to be a wake-up call to all of y'all. There's a better life for you. You don't have to pursue this. You don't have to pursue a life that is going to lead you to this, lead you to prison. Seek after God, seek for his plan, and I'm telling you, God's going to carry you through. That's all I got to say.
Once again, real life stories, man, where you can never, ever get this nowhere else but at the Ferguson Chronicle, man, where we keep it 110 all the way across the board. And today is no different. I appreciate you for stopping by, telling your story, man. You can look this up 10 years from now and still be here, right? You keep doing what you're doing, and you will be blessed, man, and keep being the person that you are, man, and always try to be a better person than you were the day before, man. So with that being said, man, I appreciate you for stopping by, giving your spiel on the Ferguson Chronicle, man, where everybody is welcome, man. Until next time, William, salute.
Salute, bro.
Once again, real life people, real life story where you can't get that nowhere else but at the Ferguson Chronicle, man. Until next time, man, salute.